Stop. You already know. Not a little, not maybe. You know. And listen, I really need you to hear me on this. You're not confused. You're avoiding what you feel because confusion protects you. And you know what truth does? It changes your life. And part of you, yeah, part of you still isn't ready for what that change requires. Because if you're being honest, you don't risk losing them. You risk losing the version of your life you've been trying to hold together, the routine, the comfort, what you've built. And that's the real fear, okay? Let's take this deeper because this isn't always just one thing, okay? Sometimes the relationship, it died slowly. And sometimes it turned toxic. And sometimes it never should have happened from the very beginning. That's the part a lot of people don't want to face. And if you're sitting here right now trying to figure out which one you're in, stay with me because this matters, okay? Now let's start with the one that died slowly because this one is sneaky. The one usually doesn't end with some huge fight, right? Or some dramatic betrayal. It starts small. One person stops courting the other, stops planning, stops initiating, stops making the other person feel chosen. So what does the other one do? Pulls back. Not always on purpose, but emotionally, yes. And before you know it, both people are sitting there thinking the same thing. Why am I the only one trying? But nobody says it, right? And then the resentment, it just starts building quietly because real life is happening. The work, the stress, the bills, the kids, the exhaustion, the responsibilities, and love. Love stops being intentional altogether. It starts being assumed. Okay? This is where people get it wrong. They think the relationship is dying, but really, it's been neglected. And neglect feels exactly like disconnection. Okay? And here's the part that a lot of people need to hear, okay? The truth. You might have to be the one to go first. Yeah, even if you feel like they're the ones that pulled away, even if you feel like you've been carrying it, even if you feel tired, okay? Sometimes you have to plan the date, send the message, create the moment, make the time, not to beg, okay? Not to chase, but to lead because real effort, okay? It reveals effort and you'll be so surprised how much somebody softens when they feel chosen again. Okay. Now listen, I'm not talking about chasing anybody. Okay. All right. You don't have to chase anybody who has consistently showed you that they're checked out. This is not what this is. Okay. This is for the relationship that lost the intention, not respect. Big difference. And here's the thing. If both of you are sitting there waiting to feel something first, nothing changes because love doesn't always start with feelings. It starts with a decision, okay? Now I'm going to shift for a minute. I want to talk about the toxic one because that one right there, that one feels completely different, okay? This is the anxiety. This is where they walk in the room and you have knots in your stomach, okay, before they even said a word. This is overthinking everything. What you say, what you wear, who you talk to, how long you were gone, why you didn't answer fast enough. You're not just walking on eggshells. You are in survival mode, okay? You're afraid to have friends. You're afraid to be too friendly. You're afraid to be too quiet. You're afraid to do your hair. You're afraid to talk to a stranger because now you're wondering what they're going to think, what they're going to accuse you of. What kind of mood are you about to walk into? Okay? You can't even rest. You can't even basically take a nap because if you don't answer the phone, God forbid, now there's a problem. Now you're doing something wrong, okay? Because let's be honest, that's not love. That's control. And control will disguise itself as care if you let it. And listen, some of you are being hurt, not just emotionally, mentally. And for some of you, unfortunately, physically too. And you know it's wrong. You feel it. You feel it before your mind even catches up. But you stay, not because you don't see it. You see it. But leaving feels harder than surviving it. And I need you to hear me on this part. Staying in something that is harming you, it's not going to fix it. It's going to normalize it. And once something becomes normal, it gets harder and harder to recognize the danger. Okay? And if you have kids, don't skip this part, because this is where it gets really real. They're watching everything, not just what you say, what you accept, what you tolerate, what you stay in. They feel the tension. They read the silence. They study the pattern. Kids are smart, okay, guys? And one day, they're going to repeat it. Not consciously, but subconsciously, because familiar feels like love when it's the only thing you've ever seen. So what I'm saying to you is, if you say, oh, I'm staying for them, ask yourself this: am I protecting them, or am I teaching them what to accept? Because what they learn now, they will live that later, okay? But here's one more lane I want to share, guys. And honestly, this is the hardest truth for a lot of people to admit, because some of you didn't lose a relationship. You never really had one, okay? You chose safety. You chose logic. You chose what made sense. They were good on paper. They were stable, available, predictable. But you never felt alive, okay? You never fell in love with them. There was no depth. There was no pull. There was no emotional intensity. Just comfort. And comfort feels real safe, but it doesn't create connection. And a life built on comfort will slowly turn into emptiness. Not painful enough to leave, but never fulfilling enough to stay. Not fully anyway. And that's where people lose years, not in chaos, but in numbness. Okay? So for some of you, this is your truth. You didn't choose them out of love. You chose them because you didn't want to be alone, because it felt safe, because it made sense, but it never felt right. And you've been trying to force a feeling that was never there. So now you don't just owe yourself honesty, you owe that to them too. Because staying when you know you're not even fully in it, that's not kindness. That is quiet dishonesty, okay? Here's how this ends, okay? If the relationship died slowly, just put in the work intentionally. Plan something, say something, show up differently. Go first if you have to, because effort creates response, okay? And if the relationship is toxic, leave. Not when it's convenient, but when it's clear. Because staying, it's going to cost you yourself, okay? And that price is not a price that you want to pay. That price is way too high. And if you're someone who just chose because you were too afraid to be alone, because it felt safe but never felt right, then you owe yourself the courage to tell the truth and the courage to act on it. Because staying out of comfort, that is still a lie, okay? You already know, guys. Your frequency is your power. Protect it, feed it, trust it, and be intentional about who you let into your healing, because we rise together, but only when we each do our own work, okay? Until next time, heal out, guys.